got to move when the Spirit says move. You got to move when the Spirit say move. Now when the Spirit say move, you got to move when the Spirit. Move when the Spirit say move. Join in whenever you get ready and stand up to me. You got to cry when the Spirit say cry. What you say? You got to cry when the Spirit say cry. Now when the Spirit say cry, you got to cry when the Spirit. Cry when the Spirit say cry. You got to laugh when the Spirit say laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit say laugh. The Spirit say laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit. Laugh when the Spirit say laugh. You got to get down when the Spirit say get down. You got to get down when the Spirit say get down. Now when the Spirit say get down, got to get down with the Spirit. Get down when the Spirit say get down. You got to fight when the Spirit say fight. You got to fight when the Spirit say fight. Now when the Spirit say fight, you got to fight with the Spirit. Fight when the Spirit say fight. You got to hush when the Spirit say hush. You got to hush when the Spirit say hush. Now when the Spirit say hush, you got to hush with the Spirit. Hush when the Spirit say what I thought. What did I think? I was going to just hold this. I don't mean to act like a creep. So, we all know that that song is taken from African American spiritual tradition, and that it is part of the conjuring tradition. Who knows what conjuring is? Somebody say.
Bring forth.
Bring forth, bring alive. Huh? Summoning. Right? Like, what were summoning what? What did we just summon? Okay, but we're all materialists, right? We all grew up under scientific method. What you talking about? What's that? Yeah, okay. It's meant to be sung in collective, right? That's why they were simple. That's why they were easy to learn, so that we could sing them together quickly. You hoeing you hoeing a row of corn or whatever it was, and you started it, and everybody down the road could have it within the first couple of lines. There was no soloist, so to speak. The Africans seem to have an understanding that the power comes down more reliably in the collective than individual. So whenever we got together, it was to bring down the spirit. That's all spirit possession is. It's just like, can we find the right rhythm and the right song and the right drum to bring a particular spirit down and let it come in, so that we serve the community as that, what y'all call it? That demigod, that force. So I was thinking about, like,
The words of that song are, you got to move when the Spirit say move. How many people were moved as you sang it? It moves. It moves you. When people had to bust rock to make the railroad tracks or whatever it was that they were doing, they needed something that would carry the body. The body could not do it on its own. So that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. You know, it's like the music is doing the work. The people don't have to do all the work because the music is doing it. Soul is doing it. It's body, mind, and spirit. It's all parts of us involved, not just the voice. And I'm going to take a moment to say, we were raised to think in terms of like voice needing to be beautiful rather than committed. When the voice is committed, it stops worrying about sounding good. Didn't we just see it? Didn't we just see it? Where is she? Right here. Right? The commitment is what we're after. Soul, I almost didn't want to talk about soul because there's, like you were talking about, June, that there are so many definitions of the indigenous, of what it means to be indigenous. Similarly for soul, we don't have an agreed upon definition of what it is, but we do know what it is. It's what moves us and what we do to be moved. I grew up in San Francisco in Western Addition with a group of people who were very colorful, I like to say. They came here trying to escape the ravages of segregation and discrimination of the South. They found a whole other thing here, but we'll talk about that. But they came here and all that color, all that rhythm, all that texture, all that sassiness, all that soulfulness came with them. And it was everywhere. It was at the table at dinner time. It was at church. It was in the beauty shop. It was on the school grounds where kids used garbage can lids to drum out rhythms, and where they ham-boned to the body. It was everywhere. This way of conjuring spirit, this way of conjuring emotion. And it's very much about feeling. It's very much about feeling. Can you feel me? How many have heard that? Yeah. That's going way, way back to African consciousness. Can you feel something? You don't have to, I don't care how many degrees you have. I will contend with you if you can come where I go with feeling, right? I know it in some other place than in the intellect. I know something. There's a way of knowing that comes from this kind of soulfulness. Okay, now you can't read. Okay. So, when I left home, I went to a Catholic boarding school that was mostly white. And it was a very different ethos. It was like, whoa, where am I now? I came to love these people, but it was very much culture shock. It was very much, it was just very different. So I get to this boarding school and I meet a Dominican sister who becomes my voice teacher. And the irony here is that I had not heard about Negro spirituals. We had church music, we had hymns and gospels and stuff like that, but I didn't really know about Negro spirituals. So here I end up singing with a Dominican nun who's German. And she introduces me to Negro spirituals. She introduces me to Marian Anderson, who is one of our famous operatic or classical singers. And in that room where we had those voice lessons, where she created a sanctuary for me. It was coming from all this trauma and all of this dislocation. She created this space for me in her music room where that was like church, that was like therapy. It was just for me. I sang with her for on and off for 40 years. 40 years. How can someone from across the way who doesn't know the first thing about oppression, unlearning oppression, doesn't know how to help somebody, be that kind of medicine for a little black girl who was pissed off? I was very, very angry. But those times in that office, with her in her music office was like very sacred. And something could be born, something could be reknitted together, because she brought me back to my own roots. And I can remember, I didn't know the music, I never really learned the music, how to play music. But I would say, no, that's the wrong rhythm. It's got to be this kind of rhythm, right? Because I knew it in my being, what it needed to be. Later, many, many, many years later, I went to a graduate school where I decided to write my dissertation on call and response, which is an African-American ritual style that you all were invited to use today. Yeah, they didn't use that language, but that call and response, like that gives you, the person who's speaking or singing or dancing or doing whatever is counting on that exchange, that energetic exchange between him or herself and the audience or the other participants or the circle, other people in the circle. And in that process of wanting to write that dissertation, this is what I learned, that these are the characteristics of African Indigenous soul. Rhythm and rhythmic entrancement. Right, using rhythm to go into trance. Now, we know that that's cross-cultural, but this is what I discovered. Spontaneity. Nomo. Anybody ever heard the word nomo? Yeah? Who said yeah? What? Okay, so you want to say something about it, or what it is to you? Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but basically it's like the power to create through word and gesture. The power to bring about something through word and gesture. We were banned, the drum was banned in the New World because of this, because of the no-no force, right? Because the drums were very much a part of how Haitians got liberation. And the drums could be used to communicate very long distances, across very long distances. And it became evident that we are empowered through the drum. Mbiti, who is an African philosopher, says that the ear is a genital. And the drum is the mouth. Nomo, emphasis on the power of word and gesture. Word and gesture. Most of you are too young for this, but how many, if any of you, saw The Women of Brewster Place? Okay, so this goes way back to the 80s, right? Late 80s, I think. And Oprah Winfrey was in it. And there's a part in this story where a woman's baby is electrocuted because the baby crawls over to a socket and sticks a pin in it, and the baby dies. And the mother goes into this grief that is protracted. She stops eating, she stops bathing, she stops talking, she wants to die. And well, the Oprah Winfrey character finally comes to her and says, you gotta take a bath. And she gets her into a bathtub. And she starts scrubbing her. And at some point she gets behind her, and the woman is starting to moan. She's starting to moan, and she gets behind her and she says, come on, come on, come on, come on. And this led to this huge catharsis that to me is a great image of the power of word and gesture. Personalism is another aspect of African Indigenous soul. And I love this one because when I was growing up, we talked about the roaches as if they were people. I remember once at my cousin's house, after all the company left, a roach came out. And my cousin went over with her shoe and smashed it and said, I told you about coming out here when I got company. It's shameful to have roaches. I told you about coming out here when I had company. And an ex-husband talked about a man who came to get a job. And he showed up with tattered clothes and his pajama pants sticking out under his jeans and slippers, and hair uncombed. And this ex-husband said a lot of things about this man, and he said, but baby, the worst was, hair looked like if you showed it a comb, it would say, thank you, Jesus. So he said, it just makes the universe so much more alive when you give personhood to things. If you showed it a comb. Which I think is close to animism, that everything is alive. Animism, everything is alive. And all of this got trained out of us. Africans aren't the only group, obviously, who ever operated from this cosmology. I'm going to break from this for a minute, because this is something I've been dying to say. White people know a whole lot more about subjugation than people of color do. You have 2,000 years of a church that tells you you're sinful, you're bad, and will burn you to make the point. There was a level of terrorism that indigenous Europeans suffered that we haven't begun to talk about. We have not begun to talk about it. And part of the reason why our beloved European brothers and sisters cannot show up better as allies is that they haven't shown up for themselves as allies. How are you going, when you inherit a thought system that says it is natural, it is the natural order for some people to be over other people. You inherit this thought system. You come here and you're used as labor to tame and domesticate this place, and some person of color comes up to you and says, we need to band together. It's like, oh, hell no. You don't know about the burnings. You evidently don't know about the burnings. I do. In my bones, in my DNA, I know about it, and I'm not going there with you. So for me, systematic oppression is largely, yes, we point to all the sociological and the materialistic wounds, and that is as it should be. But more important than any of these is that we were told that our ways of engaging with beingness were wrong, were backward, were childish, were savage. And we are coming about now. We're coming back. There's a return of the repressed. There's a return of love. There's a return of love in its embodiment. violent and in its sassy, sensual, sexual fuck you-ness. I say that, you know, my wife is here and she will tell you that I am all about raise your frequency. If you into violence, you bringing it down. So if you really want to get free, you better raise that frequency, which is not a fuck you frequency. I'm just kind of digressing to it because it feels, we have to acknowledge that, yes, in a sense we have a foot in both worlds. We have a foot in the world of like giving up this stuff that we inherited and that we got indoctrinated into. And we have a foot still in that world. So we have a foot in there and a foot over here toward liberation, true liberation, which is about discovering that we are beings of magnitude. We are beings of magnitude. When that lands, when that truth actually lands, there is nothing that will be able to make us afraid again. It is only fear that causes us to agree to domination, that causes us to keep our mouths shut, that causes us to shrivel up. But when and it's coming, I'm not going to say if, when we connect to our true magnitude, nothing will be able to stop us. Nothing will be able to make us afraid. Nothing will be able to keep us apart. For real. You see, I know you see it, I know you feel it. Because even as these escalating energies of violence and craziness are more and more visible, more and more taking up the airspace, there's this other thing happening. There's this other thing happening. You know it's happening. It's happening inside of you. It's happening in your communities, in your families. It is happening. We can call them ancestors, we can call them extraterrestrials, we can call them whatever we want to call them, but there is a tall, okay, this stuff is getting ready to get good. Okay, I just want to stop here and ask you all to, I really would love to do like a big group kind of thing, but it's impossible. So maybe if you could like just say 3 people. I think it's better 3 than 2. Like cluster with 2 other people. And just what has come up for you in hearing this? What do you want to say to somebody else who doesn't know what you think? This is a big part of it. What do you think? Because you might think everybody in here, because it's Thrive, and you got these 3 principles. 4 principles. And y'all babies and stuff. Just crawling, just walking. You might think that you're in agreement. But there are subtle differences in how we think. Like, my wife and I, we're both progressives. But I can't be watching all that news. Right? We want the same thing. We're both upset about the same things. But you tell me 5 minutes worth, that's all I have attention for. And she don't want to hear about all my spiritual love. If I raise my elevation enough, we're going to all float up to the top. She don't want to hear that. It's okay. So it's all about engaging difference. And engaging difference, so get with 2 other people and see if you can engage some difference. Like, where are you? What are you thinking about? What do you want to talk to somebody about? What do you want to share? Just take like 2 minutes each. We woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. Woke up this morning with my Quakers do it. You don't share just because you feel like it, but you actually feel like something for the group wants to come through you. You feel moved.
Good afternoon, good evening, beloved community. My name is Elise. I'm so thankful to be here today with you all, sharing and receiving and feeling, just being. I feel moved. I felt moved to come here today. I feel moved now, standing here, to really honor and witness that we're here. We're here. The things that are happening, and there's all kinds of things that are happening, including us being here today. I'm so proud of us, each one of us, for being here, and all our families. Whether or not they know we're here, whether or not they would support us being here. I know for my family there's a lot of fracturing. and yet they helped me in their own ways to be here today, to give voice, to be committed, to rise, to feel all the things like others have spoken to today, to feel all the hurt, to feel the grief, to know we're not alone. We're not alone. We are not alone. We're so much more than just not alone, too. I invite anyone else who's feeling called to come up today, in this moment now, to share. Thank you.
Hi, community. My name's Adorable. And I think there was something in the way in which the space has been created and invoked where I just feel like I'm really home today. And I feel like home is a place where I know and I sense and I feel the communion of everything that I've ever been. I feel everything that I've ever been and everything that I've ever will be at once, and that's really beautiful. And I think I feel that way because I think everyone in this space is really tuned into who they are and in a sense of alignment. And I'm curious about what it would be to live in a community where we really are activated and we really are connected with everything that we are at once. And when we look in each other's eyes, we're not just looking from this place of this perspective, that we're looking from behind us and in front of us, and we're looking with a sense of wanting to collaborate and connect. And I'm curious about what would it be like to live every life like that? To look at people and care about them again. You know? To really care about who's on the other side of those eyeballs looking back at me. Because I know that that's all that really matters is love. But to see it and feel it in a more profound way, and to be in community and know that it's possible, I want to feel like that every day.
Okay, I'm going to sit down. I just want to end with this one offering that I would love the choir to do, but or to sing with me or something. But I get these snippets. They're just snippets of songs, and I just want to. This is really more for closing, but I want to do it anyway. Be still